So it turns out if you want a legendary actor to be in Star Wars, you don't send Bob Iger. You do not send Kathleen Kennedy. You don't even send Mark Hamill. No, you send Grogu. Grogu seals the deals, and we'll get into that in just a little bit later. So welcome, everybody, to TRB. We have a loaded show for you today because we have some news stories and Resistance Report. We have a discussion coming up later on the future of romance in Star Wars movies.
I didn't pitch it, guys. For those of you wondering, I did not
Right.
pitch this
Well,
topic.
yeah, I'm more of the romance and Star Wars person on this pod, so it had to be
Oh,
said.
clearly.
It had to be put out there. We need our voices heard. And that's what we're going to do today. Makes a little too happen. And then we have Ask the Resistance. Thanks to all of your wonderful questions submitted on Blue Sky. Follow us there, TRB Podcasts, as well as everywhere else. But Lacey, how are we doing? This is your last TRB episode before another birthday.
It is. So it's a weird week that Valentine's Day and my birthday fall within the same week, which is unfortunate for my husband who feels like he has to do several nice things for me.
Oh, right. Yep. Same.
I mean, you go through the
in
same
my
thing.
house.
Fun
Yeah.
fact, your wife and I have the same birthday. Fun fact.
That is true. That is true.
So, yeah, it's just always funny. I always joke, like, oh, Christmas hits, then it's Valentine's Day, then it's my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect anything. I just do what I want to do. It's fine.
Nice.
I mean, that's the way to be about it, right? It's like, oh, what do you want for your birthday? And then people assume things. They'll be like, oh, I got you this thing, and it's like, I never wanted that. Just get me. So then I get something. I'm like, okay, come, let's eat the food I'm making.
Yeah, I've noticed as the birthdays keep ticking. It's less about like, oh, I want someone to get me blank. It's like, let's get tickets and go to an event. Let's see a show. Let's do things more than just buying things. I don't know if that makes sense.
You want experiences over stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I just want silence. Like, I just want to be alone.
Oh, you know what you should do? Have Matt get you one of those, like an hour in one of those like silence Zen
No.
places where you
No.
you lay like you're floating.
Nope.
And
I've done it. Nope.
You've done that?
The float stuff? Yeah, I did that. First of all, I did it last year.
You didn't tell me that.
We did it together, Matt and I. We did a couples one.
Interesting.
And it was very uncomfortable. And then we did it. And then we did
the
it.
most comfortable thing in the world. And you're like, it was very uncomfortable.
I could get into details of why it was uncomfortable if you really want to know.
No.
It has to do with, like, I had just had a baby and there was
Mm.
certain particular weight that was weighing down on me when you're laying on your back as a lady that has just had children, which made it uncomfortable. I had done it previously, though, at another spa back when I want to say like 24, 25. And my anxiety got the best of me and I had to stop early because I was like, this is too much being in a huge, it's like a capsule that you have you ever done it?
No.
So it's this like egg-shaped capsule that is filled slightly with water, not super deep, enough that if you fell asleep, you'd be in trouble, but not super deep. And it's filled with salt, which makes you float. And then they play like meditation music in there. So you're like supposed to be like Zen, and they have lights if you want, or you could sit in the dark. I turned the lights off for a second and I got terrified because like some people do it in the dark. No, I had to have the lights on. But even then, it was just like, it was too much. It was like too much in your brain. Your brain runs like crazy.
You gotta shut your brain off.
My brain doesn't shut off. Some people are just built like that, and I'm one of those people. But I appreciate the thought. I love massages, facials, all other spas, pedicures, but I do not like the sit in a tube with water stuff.
Take note, folks.
If anybody was curious.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is Valentine's Day Eve, so happy
Mhm.
to all who celebrate. For a special gift for your special someone, head to trbpodcast.com and buy a Star Wars podcast t-shirt. And it won't be on time because it's already Valentine's Day Eve.
But the thought
But
is there.
yeah, and you're supporting a podcast that believes in the future of romance in Star Wars. So how about that? Lacey, I do have some. We have to reveal for our TRB patrons that we're doing our first ever movie watch along
Mhm.
to kick things off. Under the TRB umbrella, it's not a Star Wars movie, though we will probably be doing those because I believe all of our commentaries are gone. But we are doing Labyrinth. I've never seen it.
One of my
So it's
favorite movies of all time.
my first time watching. TRB patrons, you'll be there with me as I experience this movie
I
for the
can't
first
wait.
time. February
This is gonna go one of
25th.
two ways. You're gonna love
Yeah.
it, or you're gonna be like, "This is the worst thing I've ever
Oh, I'm
seen."
sure I'll have fun with it. It's February 25th, 9 p.m. East. So if you haven't yet signed up on Patreon, it's gonna be the first of many.
Mhm.
And maybe this for the second one, we'll do a movie Lacey hasn't watched. How about that?
Depends what it is, but yes, sure.
Like Temple of Doom or something like that.
Have I watched Temple of Doom?
I thought that was the one you haven't. But
Yes,
I
I
could be
watched the
wrong.
first one and the third one.
There you go. So on to some less good news. It's kind of bad news. So
Uh-oh.
my brother, who is my barometer for the casual Star Wars fan, the good news is he watched Skeleton Crew and he really liked it. That was really good.
Awesome.
So that's the good
Awesome.
news. The bad news is he took it upon himself without any inquiry from me he's a teacher, 5th grade, poll multiple classes of 5th graders on whether they heard of Skeleton Crew or watched Skeleton Crew. 5th graders, 10-year-olds, the perfect demographic to watch this show.
Mhm. Mhm.
He said out of the 40 5th graders he polled, 8 had heard of Skeleton Crew
Oh no.
and only 2 watched it.
F in the
So,
chat if if you've watched Skeleton Crew, fam.
I think there is clearly a reach problem between Star Wars and its audience.
Did he
So
follow it up with what they are watching? Like, did he ask them,
I
"Hey, what are you watching?"
I can have him ask follow-ups as a control to see,
I would
what's
love that
yeah.
information just to see, like, what are those kids watching? If
But
they're
that was
not watching
upsetting.
Star Wars, if they're
Yeah.
not watching like, what are they watching? And it honestly might be what we've said before is it's not necessarily that they're not interested, it's that they don't have Disney Plus because it's so expensive.
Yeah, well, the fact that only let me do the math here. Carry the
I'm terrible at
7.
math.
No, 20%, only 20% of the kids he asked had even heard of the show.
How many kids are in a class?
20. Then he has 2 classes. So he has 40 kids
Oh,
and
okay.
only 8 of them said they had even heard of the show. Not good.
Mm. And you
Not
probably have
good.
a couple kids that didn't and just raised their hand to
That's possible too.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and he said only 2 had watched it. So 2 out of 40, that is like 5%.
Did he drop our podcast to those 2 kids?
I
Was
don't
he
know.
like, "Hey."
might-
He does.
Do you want to hear what the creator and the composer had to say about
Have you heard of this podcast?
Yeah. But shout out again though to Christopher Ford and Mick Giacchino for joining us because to this day still people are chiming in or writing us and DMing us, other podcasts DM us and shout outs. And I know like Star Wars Explained and Force Center and a bunch of others mentioned some of the bits from our interview. So thank you to everybody for that. And thank you most importantly to Christopher and Mick for joining us. That's like part of the reason why we do this. I don't think when we started we ever thought we'd be interviewing people like that, and the fact that we are and people seem to enjoy it means a hell of a lot to me, and it's amazing that both of them gave us an hour each. So I just want to give them both a very big thank you again.
They were amazing. It was great.
Yeah. But Lacey, it is time to fire up some news, and we have the Resistance report for that.
It's the resistance.
Daisy Ridley is doing the best she can to say as much as possible about nothing.
She really is.
Daisy is, because she's a busy, successful actor. And when people who have ever been in Star Wars, especially if you're the big character, you're going to be asked about it anytime you're doing an interview about anything. Probably in the line at 7-Eleven or whatever the 7-Eleven equivalent is over in the UK, she's probably asked about it by the cashiers. So, of course, people interviewing her about her movies and everything she's got going on are going to bring it up. And boy, did they recently. And it looks like IO9 threw together several of the snippets from these interviews. And Lacey, I'll just toss it to you. A recurring theme, an impossible situation that Daisy Ridley is in, based on where this project is currently at and what she can or cannot say due to things like NDAs and all that stuff. But a few different interviews, a few different quotes that probably blend together. Were you able to pick anything out from her answers to steer you in any direction based on things we've heard in the past or things you think are happening?
The thing that stood out to me the most was her saying that she didn't think it would be the next thing to go into production
Mm-hmm.
because I'm supposed to be doing, oh no, it's not, because I'm supposed to not, I'm doing something next month very excitingly, she said. So it's not the next thing project production wise, but the script is being written and I'm very excited. So that's surprising to me because right after Mandalorian is supposed to be her movie. And you have your star saying, yeah, we're probably not going to start this yet because it's still getting a story. And then also, I'm very booked and busy because, like you said in your little intro, she is a very busy, successful actress, which I want to
Yeah.
make clear because I've seen many a post lately that's saying that, oh, Daisy, she's not very busy or she hasn't had much of a career after Star Wars. I
Really?
mean, even the people on Good Morning America were like, wow, how's life after Star Wars? And she's like, I'm very busy. I've had a lot of stuff going on.
Do
She's
people
released like 4 or 5 movies in the past 2 years, which I believe 2 of the movies like she was directly involved in the production of.
do they
As
still have like production assistants that provide facts for these hosts to at least
nothing is fact checked anymore.
brush up
Let's be
on?
honest.
I mean,
I saw a
geez.
clip. They were like, "How is Star Wars after, how's your life been?" She was like, "Well, I saw myself on the screen in a gym in Vegas once, like recently." But yeah, that's surprising to me. Just based on the kind of crumbs we've been getting for the past few years and then what the kind of reception she had at Celebration and the excitement surrounding that and the news that came out from there being like, this is it, this is the next thing, it's coming, and then it got delayed because of the strikes, which we knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
But for her to be like, yeah, oh, I got that thing to do, I not right now, you're like, this is Star Wars and they're not like kicking this into high gear.
Hmm.
That was surprising. Everything else, not so much, because it's all the stuff she's been saying for the past, was it 8 months now, where she's like,
At
well, I
least.
know what the concept is.
Hmm.
I know what the idea of it is, but I can't tell you anything else. Or, oh, we're going to get news soon. And she said she's very confident in George Nolfi, which we talked about last week, the new writer, and what he's doing with it. But even then, she's like, I'm confident in it because that's her job to say she's confident in it, but she hasn't read a story yet. So I think she's playing nice and saying, I want a paycheck. I want to be Ray again. I wanted to be in this movie. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to be held to this 6 months from now. And until it gets into production, she's not going to say much because she knows seemingly just as much as we know. Within,
Yeah.
obviously she knows a little bit more because she knows the story, but I'm saying like update wise.
Right. Yeah. I also, you brought up that she mentioned George Nolfi and that she said he's a great writer. So that seems to be the thing that she was referring to about an exciting update when she was talking to Josh Horowitz, and she said, "I should
Yes.
have some
Yep.
news soon. Very exciting." And then she praises George Nolfi here in this interview,
Hmm.
which brings back the question. She, again, all these quotes. There are things she knows she can say, but Daisy Ridley is still not talking about Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. And that's strange because she's talking about George Nolfi.
And
She
George
posted
has
about it.
talked about Charmin.
That's the thing that, like, I was like, wow, now I don't know what to think. Because if he didn't mention her, then I would say she has to be out. It was we haven't heard about it since June. I don't know, and we're not here like crusading for that to be the case. If it's Star Wars Celebration and Charmin Obaid-Chinoy walks on that stage, I'm gonna be like, all right, we're doing this movie. Let's
Hooray,
do
let's
it.
go.
Let's
Yeah.
go. But we're just saying it's strange that Daisy Ridley has not talked about her. She hasn't been interviewed at all. The last time stamp was early last summer, around when like the Acolyte was coming out. So that is interesting. And then the other part, I think, is just more of like common sense, where she's like, I'm more involved now from the beginning. And it's like, well, yeah, because they announced you were coming back before they had a script. So of course, you're involved more in the process. Then we have a script. Now let's audition actors when they were doing The Force Awakens. So I agree with you. A lot of it is not new. But I think the parts we just pointed out are some things we can keep an eye on about, Daisy's thoughts about George Nolfi, clearly very confident about what he's doing, because I don't recall her saying similar things when they were changing writers previously. I don't remember her saying anything about Stephen Knight. I don't remember her saying anything about Damon Lindelof. But with George Nolfi, she's mentioning him by name. She's putting her stamp of approval, saying he's a great writer. And like Daisy says in these interviews, she's like, I am more measured now, more confident. And that is also when it comes to saying stuff in interviews. So she knows when she says things that there is weight behind it, because everyone's eyes are on it. And that's why she's always being asked these questions. So say what you want about Star Wars. It's still very vital and it's still very important to people. And they're always going to inquire about it. So I don't know what else all this means, but I'm hoping we are only 2 months away from her being able to say a heck of a lot more.
It is weird that out of these interviews this past week, what came out of it the most everywhere that I saw was that she said she'd take an MCU role if they called. That statement,
Mm-hmm.
I would be in the MCU if they called me, was
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And people were like, oh my God, Daisy Ridley wants to be in the MCU. Oh my God. Yes, of course. If someone called you and was like, hey, do you want some money? Wouldn't you say,
Yeah.
yes, I would like some money?
And
It was just such
what do
a
they
weird
expect her
thing
to?
for people to yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a weird thing for people to kinda latch on to of like, "Oh my god." Not even talking about, like, what her movie is, which is cleaner, this new kind of it seems like a spy type movie.
Yeah.
Very action-packed. I saw a clip of her doing her own stunts, like kicking people and stuff, so that's
Yeah.
pretty
It's
sick.
almost like a Die Hard type of feel to it.
Yeah, but it's just
Yeah.
so weird to me that that's what people took away was this little statement on comicbook.com or something being like, "Yeah, sure, if they called me, I would take the call or I would do it." So then they're like, "Oh." I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay.
Yeah. She's not going to be like, no, I'm
I'm
good.
g I'm good."
I'm all set. Thanks. But yeah, so we'll see if we eventually learn more about the Rey Skywalker movie, which everyone calls New Jedi Order. And I hope that's not the title. But Daisy doing her best, being a good soldier for the brand with very little to no information. So we applaud you as always, our fearless leader. Um, Next up, though, we have a legendary actor checking off another box on her resume, which is Sigourney Weaver. Just you can say iconic actress. Mandalorian and Grogu. She's got the role. It's been reported on a long time ago, but now she's talking about it here and there. Lacey, what she does give away more than we've learned from Daisy Ridley with her projects, because The Mandalorian and Grogu is finished filming. So clearly whatever she has done is already on film somewhere on Jon Favreau's laptop. But what did you make of what Sigourney Weaver had to say about Grogu, as well as her role and her entry into a galaxy far, far away.
Wasn't she one of the names thrown around a couple of years ago, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, about like all these people that were going to be in season 2 of The Mandalorian? Wasn't her name thrown around?
I
I
thought
know
that was
Jamie Lee Curtis
yeah, that's who I
was.
thought it was. I don't think it was her.
What
I
wasn't
I,
her?
I remember a lot of people comparing Peli Motto to Ellen Ripley, which
Alien.
is her
Yeah,
character from
maybe
Alien.
that's
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
Anyway, the she made a couple big comments in these interviews, which was one, she said she gets to have scenes with little Grogu, which is quote probably why I did the movie. So, as you said at the top of this episode, who would turn down scenes with Grogu? I know I wouldn't. I've been on a huge Jim Henson kind of puppetry, learning more about it, watching old clips of stuff kick lately, and Grogu is like, I mean, I would say more seriously. Lately. I have always been watching it. Hear more about it on Nerdy and Nice about what I've been watching lately. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. The $1 million puppet, everybody talks about how magical it is to be in scenes with him. Werner Herzog famously was like, you need to act to the puppet, not with the puppet,
It
like
needs
to
to
the
be
puppet.
a puppet.
Yeah, it needs
Yeah.
to be a puppet. Yeah. She calls him a little badass, which makes me think that he probably maybe uses the Force or does some type of like little flipping stuff or something. Because why would you call this puppet a badass unless it does something like a Force trick or something? But yeah, I mean, other things she gives away is that she says she is a character who is, quote, in a position of authority. And I have to send the Mandalorian out on a mission and to the Outer Rim where all the bad stuff happens. The Outer Rim. So to me, that's clearly someone in the New Republic working with Carson Teva, maybe above Carson Teva, who's stepping in to send him out on a mission. I'm hoping it's not a scenario where she's like really a bad guy and she's sending him there even though she's a good guy.
I'd like that.
Oh. See, I would hate that because I feel like every Star Wars character now is like, they're a little bad. But anyway, I do have to be a little petty about this article only because they spelled Jon Favreau wrong, like John. That stuff annoys me because there's nothing that's a bigger pet peeve to me than when people spell my name wrong or anybody's name wrong, like in emails and stuff. Especially if you're sending the email to that person. Like, come on, just triple check your spelling. It's really not that hard. So the fact that this person wrote Jon Favreau, John Favreau, you don't know who Jon Favreau is, who's pretty much the reason why she probably did this movie outside of the puppet. And she talks about how delighted she was to do this, and she's a fan of him. You can't use a sentence like, I'm a great fan of Jon Favreau, and then spell John wrong.
Well, she didn't spell it.
No, I'm saying this author did.
Oh, well, they made a mistake.
I'm saying, I know it's not a big deal to some people, but to me it is. It's a sign of respect. So that's a little bit of pettiness from me. But
my pettiness is still about Denny spelling Wookiees wrong for the Solo marketing. But
I mean, that's pretty terrible too. I would count that as kind of a name of something. But overall, I think Sigourney Weaver has been in so much, from, Avatar to Finding Dory to, she was in the Marvel Ghostbusters, but I don't count that. I'm saying like recently. She was in like Defenders. She was the bad guy in Defenders. Like she's been in all this kind of stuff lately that it doesn't surprise me she's in this. It seems like she's collecting these franchises like Infinity Stones. So yeah, I think she'll do a great job. I'm interested to see who her character is. But man, hearing someone talk about working with Grogu just makes me so excited because I hope that because this is a movie, we're going to get all the behind the scenes stuff with this puppet and other creatures and
that's true.
These actors and I dream of behind the scenes reels.
I know. Yeah, I wonder if they'll put together like just a lengthy version of that gallery, but just about the making of the movie. That'd be cool.
Yes, because they've been filming everything. There's always a camera running.
Yeah, true.
I love that.
Yeah, I love Sigourney Weaver. For years, I've been saying I think it'd be cool if she came in as a big bad villain for Star Wars. She has those.
Well, I feel bad saying that then that I was like, she's
Well-
probably a bad guy.
Well, in this scenario, you're sort of right, because I hope I'm wrong, but it just sounds like she's getting one of those boring, just personality-less, like rebellion generals, like a General Raikan. And I'm nothing against General Raikan. He did the best he could to get them out of Hoth, and I completely understand the stress he was under. He knows he's never the best looking guy in the room when Han Solo's in there. There's a lot going on in that head. But she's, if she's just like a entered British sounding name here, and she's General or Admiral blank, and she's like, all right, Mando, you got to go here and do this. And it's like, so Sigourney Weaver's not going to have that big of a role in this movie is what it sounds like. And that's just like, it's more of a cameo. And I would just love to see Sigourney Weaver have like a bigger impact role in Star Wars. So we'll see. I could be wrong, but it really just, you could just feel it, like how they Christopher Lloyd, they screwed Christopher Lloyd by just giving him like some just dumb throwaway role in that horrible episode of Mando
He was the
season
villain
3.
though.
I know, but it was just like it was just a bad role. Like I don't even remember anything he did, and it's Christopher Lloyd. Like, come on,
He turned all the droids against everyone.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll see. But I am excited that she's excited. I love what she had to say about Grogu, and to me, when she said he's gonna do things that he didn't previously do in the series, I'm like, so he's definitely talking. He's gonna be speaking finally without the need of an IG droid and little coups and stuff like that. Like he's gonna talk.
Yes.
Yeah. He's going to talk in this movie, and that's what I think she's alluding to, among other things. Maybe the lightsaber stuff, we'll see. But I think Favreau knows that all eyes are going to be on Grogu, and they're going to expect to see things they haven't seen, and her just shedding some light on that affirms that. So I thought this was a nice little interview. I love when people are excited to be in Star Wars, especially someone with her stature. So that is all great. And regardless of the type of role, I'm going to be just like happy to see Sigourney Weaver in a galaxy far, far away, because she has been, like you said, touching all these franchises and for decades. And it's such a cool, like Sigourney Weaver. If you had a room full of movie posters and it was just Sigourney Weaver movies, you would have one of the best poster collections on your wall. So I am very excited. I hope it's not just a, insert Admiral blank name here and she just like sends them on a mission. So hopefully she's just underselling her role, but still cool she's going to be in it. All right, that is it. 2 stories, but now it is time for discussion. So let's talk love.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, Lacey. Will romance return in future Star Wars movies? So we got Han and Leia, Han and Kira, Hera and Kanan, Anakin and Padme, Lando and everybody. Romance has always
Did you
been...
want that laugh? Did you want that? Were you waiting for it?
It could have been a little better, honestly.
Okay.
But laughs aside, romance has always been an integral part of Star Wars storytelling. But lately, specifically in the live action features and series, it appears to have taken a bit of a back seat. Now, yes, they flirted with the idea in The Acolyte and the sequel trilogy. Sure. But fully realized romance has been a huge void in recent Star Wars. And has this been realized? And will Star Wars return to using romance to help tell their future stories? I know it's something you've been talking about for a long time in the same way I talk about the villain problem. So, Lacey, I'm just going to toss it to you to kick things off however you want to do that. I know you're hopeful for this. So what is your thoughts on Lucasfilm bringing the love stories and romance back into the heart of future live action Star Wars stories?
I just don't understand why it hasn't been a main focus of many of their stories, with the exception of Solo. I think Solo's the only one that didn't hide it. Like they were making out in the first 2 minutes of that movie. Like they did not hide that there was
Yeah.
romance in that movie. And I have to give credit to Clayton Sandell, who has said several times to us that if they pushed that storyline in their marketing, they probably would have gotten more butts in the seats because people
Yes.
love romance. Whether you're a diehard Star Wars fan or you love war movies or you like action movies, the guy always gets the girl. Like that's always a thing. I don't understand why they shy away from it and why in general it's not just Star Wars but in Hollywood it's become this thing that like not just male but female characters can't fall in love and it makes them weak to fall in love, which I think, and I'm sure you believe this too, John, is that one of the bravest things you can do is love someone. And
Yeah.
and that's what's so crazy that they don't have this in any of the recent Star Wars shows. I think um I'm saying shows because that's what we've had recently. We haven't had any movies. It it's just wild to me. And someone like The Mandalorian is like a prime example of someone that would benefit from a love, some type of romantic relationship. And we got glimpses of it here and there. And then I know I was one of the people that were very much like, oh, are they shipping Mando and Bo-Katan? Because it was coming across that way. They kept having these like long glances or like her staring at him when he was going into the, water to become a Mandalorian again, or that moment that he was like, I will stand by you no matter what. Like, and there's that moment that literally calls for a kiss to happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And you're just sitting there like, am I being punked? Ashton? Like, what is going on? Because it doesn't make
Wait,
sense.
was that
And
a Just Friends reference?
no, it's an actual punked reference, but it is also a Just Friends. Ashton
Oh my god. All
with
right.
her mahi mahi tuna and the aluminum foil she puts in the microwave. One of my
Amazing.
favorite movies, by the way. Yes. So I don't understand it. It really, I don't know why Star Wars, Hollywood, but especially Star Wars shies away from love like it can't happen. And then when they do give some glimmer of it, they crush it completely, whether it be Rey and Kylo, aka Ben, or whether it be Bo-Katan and Mando, whether it be, I don't know, if you wanted to call um Shinhati and Sabine some type of love and enemies to lovers relationship, which people were kind of shipping a little bit. If you want to call that a love relationship, they're not letting that happen either. Like it just like nothing.
Acolyte canceled.
Yeah, Acolyte, which kind of gave a love, definitely like I would say more sexual lust than love for the Acolyte.
Tension building to a
Right. The only
Yeah.
caring moment came from him when he like puts his cloak over her. But other than that, there was not like this moment of like, hey, let's make out and hug and we're in love with
No.
each other. It was very kind of a lustful, dark side
It's like,
relationship.
you just choked out your master. You don't want to make love.
Yes. It doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know why we can't have these characters have the happily ever after. And it never goes anywhere. It's always like, oh, they have to be a brother or sister, they're just friends. That kiss that they had was just her saying thank you. Now that is an actual quote from someone that works at Lucasfilm. So
I think the writer of the novel, Ray Carson, said that in the book. It says a kiss of gratitude. That's canon.
I'm sorry. I don't go around kissing people to say thank you. Like someone doesn't bag my groceries at the store and I'm like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, what is this, like Richard Dawson on the Family Feud? It's just like, come here, love. Come here.
I don't know what that is. But I feel like a lot of these projects would have benefited from that in a time when there is a lack of friendship, empathy, love in the real world, that sometimes you do need the adventurous, over the top love story. Even if it's not every project, give me one project where that happens, because I've got nothing. And for the past 7 years I've been on this podcast, the reason I pushed so hard for Rey and Kylo to be together was because I felt like the thing that could ultimately bring him back was not necessarily his parents, but the love that Anakin never got and the love that clearly Luke never got. It's that over the top, dramatic, someone will sacrifice themselves for you love, like that no one could break through. And we didn't get it either. They were like, no, not happening.
You're gonna have those Padme fans coming after you now.
His love was an obsession. It started off genuine.
Yeah.
His love did start off genuine. It started off as like a puppy, first love, crush, that then bloomed into something else that then turned more obsessive.
Yeah.
And then that's when it got bad. I do think that there was genuine love there that Anakin had for Padme at some point, but towards the end there, it wasn't what I think sometimes people painted online.
He was suffocating her long before he physically choked her. Like, he was so obsessed with protecting her that it was almost, it became ugly. Yeah.
Which is one of the poetic things that I had said when The Rise of Skywalker came out. Is like, even though I was unhappy that Ben ultimately died, he did do what Anakin couldn't do, which was saving the person that he loved. He loved Rey, whether he said it out loud or, you know, told her. He clearly showed it in a way of sacrificing himself and his life force for her. So there has to be some love in there. Maybe not even like a deep love, because they'd only known each other for what, a year and 3 days, but enough that he would sacrifice himself for her to live.
Yeah, like Anakin only did that with Luke, and it was way after he learned his lessons from what he did to Padme. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like I have two main points for this discussion. The first is an observant one. It seems a little middle school dance where they're like, it's like when Rose kissed Finn, they're like, let's just like have her just do a little bit and we'll see what
that was the most awkward thing.
Then I was like, what? And then she passes out and I'm like, and then he like just isn't feeling it. And even John Boyega's like, no, she's my girl, but you know, we're friends. And it's too much war for love. I'm like, okay, so he like told JJ, he's like, dude, like, I don't want that to be my story. Like, I'm a warrior or whatever. So they squashed that. And then they cast.
And then he had Jonna.
And then nothing happens there.
Right, but she was like even more perfect for him. Someone that was an ex-stormtrooper that had seemingly somewhat of a force type thing going on, was really connected to him, went into battle with him. Nothing.
Yeah,
they couldn't kiss on that horse. They couldn't kiss after saving each other from almost dying. They couldn't have something.
Right. Yeah, and then Ryan does the whole thing with Poe and Rey, which is clearly, you know, an introduction that I called the I know theory, where she says, hi, I'm Rey, and he goes, I know. But then there's that tension between them at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, where I'm like, maybe they are exploring this.
Remember I said that to you in the premiere?
Yeah.
When we watched that scene,
and
when they're going back and forth
through the pits.
When they were going back and forth and she was like, you're a difficult man. You're a difficult man. I looked at you and I was like, they aren't. No. And like, you just kind of like, yes, they are. And then the part where he catches her after she falls through, I looked at you and I was like, they are doing it.
Yeah, and he's dressed just like Brendan Fraser in The Mummy. Like,
I was like, they are doing it. They're doing Poe and Rey. And I said it to you, like whispered it to you because we were in a theater. But I was like, they're doing it. Oh my gosh. Like, we're not getting our Ben moment. And then we got that too. It like didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far down a tangent, but I know that they made a lot of like changes to the end of Rise of Skywalker. And I wonder if they were sort of going to go that way. And then they're like, oh, people are going to be really pissed because of Ben Solo. So then like, all right, well, we won't explore that maybe later. But for now, we'll close out her story with Ben or something. I don't know. I don't want to get too into the Rise of Skywalker stuff because I still really enjoy the movie. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they did a lot of these almost things, and like the Ben Solo thing, yeah, Zori too, the Ben Solo kiss, like, and then they canonically said it was out of gratitude. There was just a lot of things that, like, when you look at Han and Leia's story and how it starts with this really contentious, like, oh, I just want to slap him in the face, and he's like, I can't stand her, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I love her, and she's like, oh wait, I love him. And the moment she walks out, when he leaves, the Hoth base leaves, and she walks out after him, Han's like, oh, she's in love with me. You know? Like, for like 3 minutes into the movie. And then later, when he finally says her name for the first time, we hear him say, sure, Leia. He winds up kissing her a minute after that. And like that romance, and then it goes into the honeymoon phase in Return of the Jedi when she rescues him. It's like this fully realized, beautiful 3-arc romance. And with the current stuff, it's like we'll have them kiss once, and we'll see what people think about it. We're gonna have Jin and Cassian just hug. That's it. Just a hug.
That was another. Oh my god, the moment where they're going down in the elevator, where they know they're
I
about
thought
to
they were
die.
gonna kiss. Yeah.
You're standing in front of Diego Luna, and you're not being like, "Look, let's test these waters. We have like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, let me get something out of this life." Like I
Lacey,
don't understand that.
You hit the nail on the head, because I think there is this fear of having the strong female characters. There's this false thought that it makes them weaker if they have romance or something now. It's very strange that's happening.
Which is the dumbest thing ever, because whether you're a strong person or a weak person, everybody loves kissing. So I'm not really sure where Lucasfilm is going with, no one can kiss. A hug's okay. Hug's okay.
Yeah, so
I don't get it.
And then, like, my other main part of that ties into what I was just laying out with the Han and Leia thing. It's like, it's such an important part of helping you tell your story to bring your characters closer together, first of all. And, like, having that void in Star Wars when it was such a massive part of the original trilogy's story. I mean, if Han and Leia don't fall in love, first of all, there's no sequel trilogy because there's no Ben Solo. And then more importantly than that, it made Han realize that, like, Leia essentially, because Luke was gone. So Han goes back to help Luke at the end of A New Hope. And he's like, he just had this sort of like guilty conscience, like, I got to go help that kid. And they celebrated, he got his medal, and all was good. But it was really Leia and him falling in love with Leia that made him become the Han that we meet at the beginning of Solo, who's in love with Kira and believes is an optimist and all that stuff. So without that love, like, Han Solo is always going to be that chip on his shoulder, out for himself, like, jaded jerk. And she saved him through love, and George Lucas knew that. And George Lucas also loves those classic fairy tale fantasy stories, and he's weaving all of those classic elements into it. And for whatever reason, they've brought all that stuff back in. Like, I remember seeing the early promo stuff of J.J. Abrams, and he's got the puppet walking behind him and stuff. And we're like, holy cow, they got a full-size X-Wing. They're like really bringing back all these things. And they brought it all back, and all those feelings came back. But really, the one thing that they haven't brought back, aside from Han and Kira, which ended sadly, is a fully realized long-form 3-arc, love story. So I hope they're cognizant of that, and I hope they don't think that in order to have Rey or anybody be this strong female lead, means she can't have romance.
Or anyone. They were saying Jin couldn't find love. You have two characters that in the beginning of the movie hate each other, don't want to be together. Basically kind of like that buddy cop movie where you have two people being like, this is your new partner, and they hate it. They ultimately give in to what each other wants and listens to one another. Like Cassian gets the whole crew for her to go, knowing that they're all going to die. He's willing to sacrifice his life, and other people are willing to sacrifice their lives for her. And you're telling me that there's no love there? There's no romantic feelings when they both think they're going to die, and then they do die. Like, it's just crazy to me. I watch all this. There's always these glimmers, these moments that you're like, oh my gosh, we're finally going to get it. And then we don't.
Yeah.
And you can't look at any story that is successful in books, movies, comics, etc., and not understand that there is some type of romantic storyline weaved in there somewhere. Because love is a universal thing that everybody truly understands. The feeling of loving someone, having it returned, everybody gets that. And that's
all of it.
Right. Yeah. And that's that thread that connects your audience to what they're watching. Not Mandalorians or lightsabers or flying in space. No, it's characters caring about one another, found family, brothers and sisters, fathers and daughters, fathers and sons, love, familial love, friendship, and then also romantic love. Mm-hmm. Because that's a sign of growing up too. Like, falling in love is a part of life. And I don't understand why Lucasfilm has chosen not to explore that more. And when they do, it's viewed as a bad thing. I mean, look at the Acolyte. Like, that wasn't a healthy relationship. Look at Padme and Anakin. That's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah, we need more good guy romance.
Yeah, like, give us something to root for.
And by good guy, I
Outside of
mean,
just like, hey, blow up that ship.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So looking ahead, it's like we know all these movies that have been announced and revealed and reported on, and you got Sean Levy, you got the
He's
Rey
doing a love
movie.
story, 100%.
You think so?
Sean Levy loves love. Look at Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. The whole movie is about love, about loving your friends, loving your family, and then also who you ultimately love, which was Deadpool and Vanessa. Like, that whole movie is a love story in a way.
He might, but
I think he's done it in Stranger Things too, with Sadie Sink's character and her boyfriend. Like,
Lucas. Yep.
yeah, and then he did that story on Netflix about the girl that was blind that was having some type of love story with another person during the World War. Like, Sean Levy loves love. I don't understand why he wouldn't do a love story, especially if Ryan Gosling is involved, like the king of love stories.
Oh, true. Good point. I almost forgot about that. Yeah. Because I don't think the Mandalorian and Grogu is going to explore that if they haven't yet.
No,
because
no.
because then that would feel like it's almost like shoehorned in. Like, wait, he's going on his like biggest mission ever, and now all of a sudden we're going to be like, nope, now you got to be in love now.
That's purely a father-son story. Like,
it's a father-son story. Yeah. It's Jon Favreau, playing with his action figures and going on adventures, and that's what we need the Mandalorian to be. But then you got the Rey movie, and then we've speculated on that. We've done a whole episode speculating on whether Rey will have children, which obviously that would mean more than likely there was a romance involved. But you got to wonder if she's going to be the Obi-Wan type and the mentor. Like, how full can they make Rey's plate and still give her room to tell her story? So that I'm not sure about. George Nolfi, Adjustment Bureau, there's romance there. I mean, he could very well be doing it. So that remains to be seen. I don't want to speculate too far, but I guess I hope in general that it is something that gets reintroduced and not necessarily between, two of your supporting characters. Like, give me the lead, give me the Han and Leia, like give us like a big chunk of your story that can be driven by that relationship and the after effects of those relationships. Because really, romance, regardless of genre, you can do romance in horror, you can do romance in anything. It immediately catapults the connection of those characters. It's like a cheat sheet for audiences buying into the bond of those characters if the actors have that chemistry. It's just it's a tool that is so useful and has a wide reach, because I love rom-coms, I love romance. You obviously do. It's something that everyone, whether they even think of it as a guilty pleasure or it's something they openly say they love, people are drawn to that. You're absolutely right, Lacey. I agree with you. So
I think Rey is going to have some type of love story in the next one, because at this point she's going to be 35 in the series as Rey, because she was 20 when the movie started.
Yep.
And it's only been a year, so she'll be like 35, 36. That seems like the perfect time for her character to fall in love, especially if she's been focused on this new Jedi Order. She's been focused on, what the world is now, that she might unexpectedly find someone to fall in love with.
I agree. So that is the hope. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we move on to our next part of the show?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
All right, guys, time for Ask the Resistance, exclusively now on Blue Sky. So you guys have Star Wars questions. Hopefully, we have some pretty good Star Wars answers for you. So first up, we have Robbie at Something Special on Blue Sky. And he asks, will we get an animated series centered around Ahsoka and Ezra training Jacen Syndulla? Or could that be a part of Ahsoka Season 2 or even the Filoni film? John, what do you think?
I don't think so, Robbie. I think it is clear that anything that is going to be made about Ahsoka is going to come from the hand of Dave Filoni, and I don't think he's going back to animation. So I think Ahsoka's story is going to be closed out in live action with Rosario Dawson, and it's going to be Dave Filoni clearly penning that. So I don't see that happening. I really don't think we're getting a return. I feel bad because I love Ashley Eckstein, and it doesn't mean she can't return as Ahsoka, but for a long form like animated series that has canon implications, I can't imagine Filoni's going to go back to that. I could be wrong. Maybe he does, but it just seems like he was there, he was in charge of that, and now he's a chief creative officer. He's directing movies, big money, big stakes. He's in charge of other canonical, decisions. Almost like maybe one man story group. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it just, to me, it seems like that's not going to go down simply because Filoni would have to be the one to write it, and I don't think he's going back to animation. What do you think, Lacey?
I think you said it perfectly. I don't see him going as in Filoni. I don't see him, and this isn't to say that animated is beneath live action, so to speak. We just don't think he's going to go back in the sense of where he started. He's progressed now to live action, to these bigger projects, to more important projects for Lucasfilm and specifically for Disney, that I don't think they want him going back to animation and pivoting from the kind of the track that he's on. So that being said, because Ahsoka is so tied to Dave Filoni, it's his character, his baby, so to speak. I don't see her showing up in something unless he's involved. And right now he's very much into Ahsoka season 2 and the movie. I don't know if we're going to see Jason getting trained by Ezra, but I would be happy to be proven wrong because I think Hera doesn't want Jason trained because she's being a protective mom. I think we got that so much in Ahsoka season 1 that she's very much trying to steer him away from that path, even though he is gifted in the Force, because she's just too afraid to lose him.
Yeah, it's the Jason thing is very interesting because it's in this weird spot where it's like, well, we know he's not around for the sequel trilogy.
Directly, anyway.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone shows up at the end of that, and we still didn't see him there. I mean, he could still very well be alive and doing something. Maybe Ezra's training him during that time, and that's why we don't see Ezra during that time, and that's totally fine with me. But it's like it's going to be such a follow that bird. If you've ever seen that movie, where like every Muppet and every Sesame Street character shows up, it's like this Dave Filoni movie and this Ahsoka, Thrawn, all that stuff. There's so many characters that are you gonna take Ezra after he's finally been found, and then like his thing is gonna be now training Kanan's son? It's like I don't know that they're gonna do that in like the Filoni in Anakin in Ahsoka season 2. Might as well call it Anakin season 2, I guess. Ahsoka season 2. I'm kidding. Or the Filoni movie, but I think they'll explore it. I just don't know where. Because you could do Ezra and Jason, and if it's animated, if Ahsoka's not there, then that works. I think Filoni's just like Ahsoka's only me. If someone else wants to write some Ezra, fine. Ahsoka is me. So.
All right, next up is Mark at Wolvie478. What up, Mark? He said, seeing as though Bob Iger is swaying towards theatrical releases, do you think a Skeleton Crew movie would be a realistic option? Think it could be pretty spectacular on the big screen. I couldn't agree more, Mark. I've been saying this for the past month that Skeleton Crew should have been a movie, that it would have been better as a movie. It would have connected so much better with general audiences. And speaking as a mom with young kids, there's not a lot of choices in the movies lately for children. And if there is, for like family-friendly movies, they kill at the box office because there's only so many choices. It's like you have the two big things that make the most money recently have been family-friendly films and horror. Seems like the only two things that are making just bank all the time consistently.
Yeah.
That there's a reason why Moana 2 made so much money, even though it wasn't the original people, even though some of the critics and responses were that it was rushed or this or that, because there weren't many other options for kids outside of like Wicked, which I don't know if a kid can sit through Wicked. So I agree with you. I think it would be great. Is it a realistic option? 100% it is. And that's what John Watts and Christopher Ford wanted to begin with. However, I don't think Disney's going to push that, unfortunately, because of the viewers and the numbers that we've seen so far. But hey, you never know. Maybe this gets really big a year from now and they release it on DVD and everybody gets to watch it on their own time. And then they see that DVD sales are crazy and people want to see it in the big screen and then we bring them back. I think that would be a better option than another season, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Skeleton Crew, I love it. One of my favorite Star Wars series, if not my favorite. I think it would have been a great movie. I think if they followed it up and it became a movie, I would love that too. I just think it's becoming more and more clear to me, I know it's a small sample, but like my brother asked real kids in a real school that he teaches, and only 1 out of 5 of the kids had even heard of Skeleton Crew. They got to market Star Wars better. They got to figure out they got to modernize it. That they're not, don't know these things are happening. It's wild that how do you expect to get viewers? I mean, it's one thing about the subscriber counts, and I understand, people are cutting costs in certain ways that they take in media, but to have your target audience, 80% of them not even know that the show exists is terrible. And I don't know if that poll is widened and you poll an entire county of schools, if that's similar, but I bet it is.
Yeah,
I
I would
don't
bet
think
so.
people are finding out about this stuff, and that is a big problem. It's not the crew and Skeleton Crew's fault that it was not watched. It is Bob Iger and it is Disney's
Marketing.
fault.
It's marketing. Yeah.
So, sorry for the rant there, Mark. Appreciate the question. And also, Robbie, thank you for the question too. Everything Skeleton Crew for me would be great. So movie, absolutely.
Nice. Last but not least is Dave. What up, Dave? At Dave Graham, who asks, Kathleen Kennedy is calling you. She wants you to write the story outline for the new Rey trilogy. I mean, at this point, she might need us to. What do you tell her, John?
Kathleen, not to put you on hold on podcasting. I don't know. We kind of did this on an episode. I think we gave our pitches for episode 10.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm going to be honest, because we've had so many conversations about this movie. My hope would be that I know that I initially really did want her to have kids, but now I'm kind of pushing the kids aside. I really want her to have a love story, like a really good love story, to show that she's more than just a Jedi Master. She's more than just the person of all this responsibility and making the galaxy a safe place. Like it's human to love. So I would love for her to experience that. I know that previously I think we pitched like how does it open? The movie, how does it open? And my thought was that it would open years later, which we now know is 15 years later. My idea was that they would be fighting in some type of like jungle rain planet and some type of factory where they were taking over bad people that were doing, terrible things to local communities. And that we would see John Boyega light up his lightsaber immediately. Like he's already a Jedi. We don't have to see the training thing. Like he's
Don't have to
already
see
there.
that. Yeah.
I just really wanted to open up with a really cool action sequence. But yeah, I guess my pitch to Kathleen Kennedy would be Rey has set up a successful place for people to learn the Force, train, is helping the rebellion stabilize the universe while also taking on this new evil, whatever it be, and falling in love in the process, like showing that being vulnerable is okay. Because that's something she definitely struggled with in the sequel trilogy. But at the same time, it was very much like, you are the important one. Everything you do, it matters, and you have to save everybody and die for everybody. Like,
I like that. I do like that, and I also like the idea of like we don't need to see Finn training to become
No.
a Jedi. Like
We saw that in the Lego movie.
the Lego holiday special was perfect. You give him a little wood lightsaber, he figured it out, away you go. But yeah, I think I don't know if when we were on Children of the Watch we did like pitches or something, but I think I remember having this idea that
We did pitches of original films.
I think I went there though. I think
Oh,
I
you
went
did.
like
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I think my idea was like the New Republic sort of evolves, and over time you can see, how governments shift and jockeying for power and stuff. And there's this sort of these rules put in place out of fear, and the new policies are to destroy all artifacts, records, and history of the Force and the Jedi and stuff like that, because they feel anytime those things rise, it leads to war and problems. So then you have Rey sort of back in like this very rare status, the way Obi-Wan was like this one wizard and he was the one survivor, and but there's Yoda too, so now there's two of them. And then it's like, oh wait, no, there was all these Jedi all over the place, and they all survived and stuff, which is where we're at. But I think specializing and making Jedi a rare thing again, sort of like they did a little bit with Jod, where the kids were like, "Oh my God, you're a Jedi," like that sort of feeling. But make it real. Like there's not really a lot left at all. There's no records of it. They've destroyed Kyber planets. They think it's a bad thing, and what does that lead to? So I think that would be a cool story for them to approach, and then like a lot of makeout sessions and some marriage and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my pitch for Children of the Watch, and I think I had pitched the guy from season 1 of Bridgerton, Roger Jean Page, beautiful man. I pitched him as being like one of the main people in the movie. I would love for him to play Daisy Ridley's love interest. I think they would be a beautiful couple. So I'm going to pull that from my pitch elsewhere.
All right. Very good.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Robbie. Thanks to everybody who sends questions. Lacey, I did forget to mention the sources of the news stories before. I did mention IO9 put them together, but that's my bad. So I just want to make sure I give a proper shout out to Comic Book, to Collider, and to Screen Rant for the Daisy Ridley bits.
Tidbits. Yeah.
And then Games Radar with the exclusive for Sigourney Weaver. So
Nice.
shout out to those folk. But is that it?
That is it.
All right. Well, we hope everybody loved the show. We love doing it. So thank you all so much for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a great deal. Like I said before, Patreon. Tiers start at $5. We have bonus episodes. We're doing our first movie watch along for Labyrinth on February 25th at 9 p.m. East. Sign up for Patreon and come watch a movie with us. I'm watching it for the first time. Never seen it. So I may lose my mind. I may be bored. I don't know. But I'm hoping I'm excited because Jim Henson stuff, David Bowie, and Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, see? There you go. But thank you all so much for being a part of what we do here. Whether you just listen or you watch or you're on Patreon or you're in our Discord on Patreon, you buy a t-shirt, however, it just means a great deal to us. Thank you all so much. I have to give a special shout out to the Generals and the Spice Runners. The Generals: Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Ramori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, and Darth Snips. Generals are holding it down. Thank you all. And the Spice Runners: David Probus, Neil SHAH, KENDALL, GELNER, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and THEFORTWORTHIAN. And everybody, like I said, however you support TRB and enjoy TRB, we appreciate it very, very much. Lacey, any other plugs that we have to get out there that I forgot?
I don't think
coming?
so. We do have new merch coming. New merch coming soon. Stay tuned for that in the next week, probably. Or earlier.
Right. Yeah, excited about a lot of that.
Been working on it. Also, we were recently on Force Center talking about Solo, so definitely check that out. We were on there last week, but if you haven't had a chance, go and listen to it. It was a great time. And we have other stuff coming up soon. Can't say yet. Other than that, you can find me at Lacey Gilleran and at It's Lacey Gilleran on TikTok.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. That's good then. Good thing we didn't announce anything.
Interesting. All right.
And we're leading up to Celebration, so get ready. So we have merch
Yes.
coming for Celebration specific. We're also going to cover stuff at the show and all the news that leads up to there. We're also going to be doing other content while we're in Japan. We're going to Disney for a couple days. We can't wait to check that out. It'll be a good time.
Yeah. For me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky. My other pod, Just Like the Movies. We just did No Country for Old Men. My God, that's a good movie. And yeah, hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, Lacey, how about you?
I just gave my plugs. So
Oh, you gave your social media already?
Mhm.
Jeez, you sniped me. I'm too busy. Like, my brain is on what is she talking about that we have coming up that we haven't talked about. And I'm all frazzled.
Oh, you're still frazzled from the Super Bowl, aren't you? It's okay, John. It's all right.
Frazzled? Are you kidding? You're like, I was buried 6 feet underground. Creed's there standing over my grave singing that song. And then they just poured more dirt on it when a guy who was drafted by the Giants went on to win the Super Bowl for one of my most hated teams, the Eagles, on his birthday. It just doesn't get worse than that.
So why did he leave the Giants?
They just opted to give the quarterback money instead of him. And they sort of let him test the market, and he left, and he stuck it to him. And they deserve it.
Good for him.
They deserve every bit of it. Yeah, Saquon Barkley's great. I'm a big fan. I'm just so upset that he's on the Eagles. It'd be like if Derek Jeter went, to a lesser extent, because Derek Jeter's an icon. Barkley's not yet. He might be.
I get it. Going to the Red Sox.
Going to the Red Sox, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Jalen Hurts, though. Oh my God, is that guy photogenic? He looks good in every photo. It's insane.
This is my life on this podcast. All I hear all the time is about how all these
Anne
people
Hathaway too. Anne Hathaway is very good looking. She was at the Super Bowl.
By the way, yeah, I'll save this for Nerdy and Nice, but I think people don't understand why Taylor Swift was booed, and I'll get into that on Nerdy and Nice on Monday.
Oh, jeez.
Because there's an actual real reason that makes sense why. But we hope everyone enjoys this episode. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. We hope you have a great Valentine's Day. And if you don't like Valentine's Day, screw it. We'll be back with you on Monday for Nerdy and Nice. So until next time, we'll see you around, kids.